Hello there and welcome back to Morning Express, and a very good morning to you. Wednesday the 26th of November it is. Now 8:35 a.m. The next few moments want to focus on parenting, and as one of my guests like to call it, intentional parenting is important. You just don't go about it like you bumped into the kids and then life happened and then every day you go with it, wing it as it comes. No, that there must be some thought into it, and especially now that the holidays are here with us, it's a make or break time. It's either your kids will come out of this period better people, having grown, gotten better in one thing or the other, or having picked some bad habits that are not very good. So to talk about this, in studio with me this morning is Dr. Victor Yamo. He's a father of 3, and also with us is Rosalind Kigen, who's the founder of Intentional Parenting for a Better Life, also a parenting coach. Good morning.
Good morning.
And thank you both. So I'll start with you, Rosalind. First, talk to us about kids. How many kids do you have?
I have 3.
3?
I have 3 children. A teen, a preteen, and a young one, 6 years.
6 years.
Yes.
Boys, girls?
Oh, I'm a mother of girls.
All girls.
All girls.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you?
3 children. Richard, 16, Zawadi, 13, and Baraka, 10.
And 10.
Yeah.
So when we're talking about the holidays are here and parenting usually at this particular time, I remember when we were kids, which worked for us, we would go up country. December, we shall go have fun. Now with times, there's so much happening. Kids have phones. There's all manner of parties being organized here and there. Why is it important to even have this conversation about intentional parenting, especially during the holidays?
Let me start. In fact, what I tell parents is a month to the holiday, you should have planned a structure for what your kids are going to do during the holiday. You should know, in fact, you should even plan your leave if you're working, or organize yourself so that they're not idle during the holidays. It shouldn't be like, wow, school has closed, what am I going to do with these children? And then you start looking for holiday camps. I'm getting many...
Where to send them.
Where to send them. I'm getting many phone calls from parents asking me, do you do holiday camps? Where can I get a good camp? Yeah, it's like a shortcut to keeping my child busy. And it shouldn't be that, because that's not what we call intentional parenting.
Yeah. But that said, camps in themselves are not bad.
Yes.
So how is it that a parent needs to draw that balance, where on one hand, keep them engaged and all, but shouldn't feel like you're dumping them, looking for the next, dump zone, so that you just are left to your own things?
I think for me, the critical thing is parenting is not a part-time job. It's a
Right.
full-time engagement, which means throughout the year you need to be clear what you're trying to achieve and the goals that you're trying to work around with the child. And so the holiday shouldn't be a point where you are looking for things to do, but if you have worked throughout the year and has a planned process, then you know when holidays come, I want my children to do A, B, or C, so that we achieve certain things that we want to achieve as a family
Right.
and for the betterment of the child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's give us a personal example. For you, the holidays are here. What are you planning with the kids?
Number one, you need to know, have a relationship with your children first.
Yeah.
Then you need to know their talents. So you see, in school, basically they're being pushed academic. So the gap there is, what am I going to do with them? What are their talents? What are they good at? I have one who's very good at swimming. I'm going to enroll in a swimming camp. I have an artist. My 11-year-old is a very good artist. So I'm taking her to an art class to add up on what they're already doing in school. Then that is beyond the camp. There's also something else that we're going to do. You need to do music. Is your child talented in music? Enroll them to a music school.
Yeah.
Or even call in a person to do the music to play piano in the house. Yeah, it shouldn't be very expensive. If they're good with their hands, beading, get a person who can teach them. Take them to the person's house and let them train how to bead. And it has to be, Sophie, it has to be strategic with your time.
Right.
Yeah.
I like that you bring out the aspect of talent and what their interests are, because holidays are a good time to capitalize on that, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah?
Yeah, I agree with what Rose is saying. And in my case, what we've done is, one, it's been a long year.
Yeah.
Zadia's been in class 8. She's just finalized her exams. And one of the things we do as a church is to take them through what I'd call a rites of passage. She's leaving primary school, going into high school, and so she's been through a program called Crossroads, where we've been looking at growing her holistically as an individual. And so this holiday, one of the things she's going to be obviously doing is to take time and go for the year-end camp that takes them through life skills and try to make them understand that you're actually moving away from being a child into starting adulthood, early adulthood, so that you prepare yourself for that. It's also to prepare her for going to Form 1 next year.
Right.
For the other two boys, Richard is slightly older, and one of the things we then look at with him is to try and ensure that he not only relaxes, because at a time of the year when he needs to relax, but also keeps focused on what he needs to do. And so one of the things we are doing is to look at opportunities to train him in matters of managing himself. For instance, when I was young, we used to cook. So one of the things we are doing is now we have released my maid, my house help.
Nice.
And so I'm just around with my 3 children, and part of it is to look at how do I manage myself. If there's a 3-bedroom house, you have to wake up, clean it, prepare a meal, wash the dishes, wash your clothes, so that they're not depending on somebody else, but they're now starting to depend on themselves and ensuring that they can manage the house.
I like that approach. Wouldn't you agree that instead of households getting busier during the holidays because there's more people to feed, wash their clothes and all, it should be a time actually they also take a break and have these kids trained in some of these house chores as well?
Yeah, in fact, in my classes, when I take parents to parenting, I always encourage them during holidays, you give your health a break. In fact, that's the time they should take the 1 month leave, especially parents with bigger, older children. A child by age of 6 should be able, even 5, should be able to pick up by themselves. They should be able to make, in fact, wash their own panties, make the bed, polish their own shoes, bathe by themselves. By the age of 5, they should be able to do that. They should be able to be responsible. Then I also need to add something, Sophie. And I think this we need to push as parents for the government, in that when high school children, age of 13, 12, should be able to do work at the workplace. You know, like in the states where they do summer jobs, summer jobs, that's what we need to do. We teach them on how to, train them how to handle their money, get a little bit of pocket money. So what I always tell parents is, take your child to your office. Like now, the day you'll have a child, I'll tell you, Sophie, you need to bring your daughter or your son one day in the office, so they can see and appreciate what mommy does, and this is how mommy makes money to take you to school. And let them work. And let them work. Look for because the government doesn't allow under 18 work. That's what we agree. But look for a friend who has a business. And it will be coaching and mentoring this child into their places where they're comfortable to be. Yeah.
So you've mentioned camps, those are some of the good ones, but also perhaps important to say that parents need to know, if it's a camp, who are these people that are going to be with my kids? What are their backgrounds? What are my kids going to be exposed to? But also perhaps in terms of those who cannot afford to take their children to these camps, cannot take them for piano lessons, cannot do all these fancy things some parents can do, which is beautiful. What do they do? And they still have to work. So they're busy and they have kids at home. Because are the ones you see them sending them going shags or something.
I agree. I think that's part of the process. That's why I said it's intentional. And you need to be very clear what you're trying to do. And you then can be able to organize your life around that. For instance, I tend to take my breaks when my kids are around, because I think as a father it is important for me to be available and to drive that process of ensuring that my children then go through a process of understanding what you're trying to do and working with them through that process. But you just said, what if you're busy and you cannot afford some of these things? I think there's also a place for you to connect with the children and just take time to learn your child, to understand what they are about, what their interests and desires are. You're also supposed to connect them with the other important people in their lives. And I think part of the challenge we're having now is in this country, we are becoming dysfunctional because the social structures that we had in place are no longer there. And for instance, in my case, since my wife and I come from two ends of this country, the kids spend time with their grandparents at both sides. And that helps them to understand and appreciate their family of origin, what they're coming from. And for us, we're trying to build a situation where they understand the cultures,
Yeah.
and the cultures are very varied and different, so that they appreciate that this is who I am and this is where I'm coming from. So that
Right.
is one of the things you need to do. Secondly, I think you also need to just take time to work with them through what they're going through in the terms of holidays, their questions they need to ask. And some of the things I do is just to take my kids out to Jaffrey Club for a walk around. And you will be amazed at the amount of discussions you have as you walk around, the way they open up, and they just allow you to get into their
Yeah.
lives. And you start understanding where they're coming from, what they're
Okay.
dealing with, what they're tackling.
Yeah.
And that's an opportunity for you to just make them understand
And
that this
bond.
is what you need to be doing, and to even bond.
Okay.
And finally, for me, the important one is also, as Rosalind said, is allowing your child to start seeing what careers they would go through. And so, for instance, my last born child, Baraka, who's 10, is very mechanical. And so anytime we go to the garage, he's out
Get
there
involved.
getting involved, asking questions, what
Yes.
is this about?
Yeah.
And you just help him to develop at that
Yeah.
level.
Rosalind, talk to us about the parents with teenagers, 'cause I think that's a special group of kids right there.
Yeah.
They're learning a lot, they're growing up, experimenting. There's the whole sex conversations most parents want to steer away from. They're getting attracted to the opposite sex. There's so much influence in what they're watching on TV and listening to on radio. How do you handle that group?
Keeping teenagers busy.
Yeah.
Well, it's a task. It's not easy to keep them busy, because they already have the minds of their own.
Yeah.
They already, by the time they're closing school, they already knew what party and is happening, who is what. They already have their own
Schedules, all planned.
they already have their own schedule all
Yeah.
planned. But, what we need to do as parents, number one, is we need to be an influence in our teenagers' life, and it's never too late. You need to be an influence so that even you can be aware of the schedules that they have. But what I had said earlier is involve them, and what even Dr. has said is involve them with work. When you leave to go to work, give them work to do in the house. Keep them busy. Yeah. Put them in the mini camps that are going on. Put them in a camp. Keep them busy. Take them to work. Send them somewhere. By now, teenagers should be able to. Okay, parents fear putting teenagers in a matatu, but honestly, by 14, 15 years, you should be able to take a matatu to go to town and pay water bill, pay the electricity bill. Yeah. Keep them busy. Go pay the DSTV bill. Go pay
But what then
something.
will the place of rest be? Because then you keep them busy and it will feel like, okay, I'm on holiday. I'm supposed to be resting.
yes.
Because then they'll start, be like, oh, no, this is me. Now even you bring out the rebellion, part of them out. How do you balance that? Because I think they also need to rest. They also need to hang out with their friends. They need to attend some of these parties. I guess it's how you then ensure it's all good or safe.
It's very important. But
Yeah.
it's very important for them to do all these things. So what you need to do is sit with your team. Talk to them. You know what? Give me your schedule. Let's see how we can fit in this schedule. And then let's agree on, this party you're going to go in. You say agree who's going to be in this party, who are the kind of people going to be on this party. You agree, and you can even drop and pick. They like watching this program. Let them watch. Let the children become children. Let them have fun. But in the middle of their fun, let them also be responsible. Yeah. Let them be responsible. When they're going to town, when you're saying them to go pay electricity, they'll pass through somewhere. They'll pass through a mall. They'll have fun. Yeah. Because electricity it's 2 minutes. You go, pay, line up. You'll pass through a mall. You say hi to your friends, and you come back home.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you say also to the same? Because I think it's a tricky balance there, because some parents tend to then go and overkill. They'll just have a whole schedule, piano, shopping, this, wash vyombo, make tea, watch this, by the time they're done, they're like, sure, it's
like
even worse
school
than
again.
school.
I think what we need to do is to balance and to understand whom you're dealing with. And at about 13, 14, 15, they're already mature enough. They already know what they would like to do. And some of the things we've done as a family is also to just sit down and say, can we have a time when you just sit as a family? Yes, you like watching TV, you like watching movies. One of the things we intentionally do is to, once in a week, to sit down and have a movie which then we discuss. And they're very good movies that then bring out life lessons that you can then have a discussion. Matters like things you've raised about sex, friends, targets, vision, where am I going? Those are some of the things you sit down, and if you look around and you are intentional, you can actually find movies every maybe once in a week, sit down, watch it as a family and discuss. Ask your boy, what do you think about what you've seen? Ask your girl, what have you seen? The other thing I try to do is to look at the realities that are happening.
Right.
For instance, one of the things that we've really had a discussion around as a family is the stripping of the women. Were the women wrong to do what they did? And my daughter has a very strong opinion about it.
Yeah.
And you need, at that point, take advantage to discuss about how do you dress.
Okay.
Is it just a question of I put pieces of clothes together and walk out, or there's a process?
Yeah.
Do I dress the same when I'm going to church, when I'm going to work, when I'm going to meet my friends, that kind of things? We then discuss things like now what is happening, people being killed, what is the situation. And I think that draws them out, because they then start understanding that it's not about them as an individual, but about the bigger space.
Yeah.
And remember, like for me, in my family, we are saying we are raising leaders for tomorrow.
Right.
My children should be the leadership that runs this country tomorrow.
Correct.
So they need to be aware of what is happening. What do they feel about it? What are the life lessons coming out of it? When people are dropped out of a bus, such and shot at, are things we need to discuss and not just sweep under the carpet.
Right.
So, and for me, I think with two teenagers and a preteen, it's a very good discussion we're having now, because it's all about what is happening.
So are you able to talk matters sex with your daughters?
Exactly. Why not? That's what I am there for.
Do they come and tell you, Daddy, this boy likes me?
Yes, and I can tell you which one likes her and whom she's looking at.
Yeah.
And it's the question then is, how do you handle it? Do you then tell her off, or do you then go through a process of
it's
making her
important not to say,
understand?
don't do that. It's evil.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's where we, at certain levels, you're failing as parents. Because for me, my challenges and my vision is that my children should have me as their first reference point. Yeah, whatever they do, they should come back home and say, "Oh, Dad, we were out in school and this is what happened. What do you think about it?" And one of the things we did when my daughter turned 13 and I realized that she had grown and become a woman is to take a Saturday morning walk every morning, and we discuss. There are things I am told, please don't tell mommy this. This is me, Daddy, and daughter time.
Yeah.
And we have a discussion. Tells me, "Oh, this boy thinks," and ask her, "What do you think about it?"
Yes.
And she tells me, "Oh, Daddy, I think I need to finish school. I am going to Precious Blood next year, and I need to do architecture as one of my sisters," and that kind of thing.
All right.
Yeah, so
Rosalind, So, Rosalind, sometimes when despite a parent's best intentions, like you've said, like you're out there planning for these things, giving the child some time to play, some will still get involved in some vices. So what are those telltale signs that one has to be very aware of, very awake to be able to read when they exhibit, to be sensitive to the fact that it could happen? And if it does, this is how fast I know that there's something wrong somewhere.
If you have a bubbly child or a bubbly teen who talks to you, who's open to you, all of a sudden they start closing up, they get quiet, they close their room, they don't want to talk to you anymore. They even change, especially a child who's going to drugs. They become untidy, or they can start eating too much or drinking too much water, or they even stop. If there's a boy in your girl's life, all of a sudden she has a boyfriend, they'll no longer be close to you.
And also them on the phone.
They're on the phone,
smiling.
They don't want you to touch their phone. They change even their dressing.
Yeah.
They're very secretive. So that's the time now you'll say, this must be something wrong. But Sophia, in order for you to know that, you have to be, let me repeat myself, you have to be in a relationship with this child. You have to know this child even before, so that you can tell the difference if there's something going on in my child's life. And I like what Dr. Harry said. The doctor actually opens up and talks to him. So how did the doctor start talking to him? Because at a younger age, he opened up. Maybe the doctor asked him a question and he answered. And the doctor said, "My dad is a safe place where I can go and ask questions and I'll answer." So it's very important to to be in that influential relationship with your child,
Yeah.
so that you can pick up those little signs.
So relationship bottom line is the
Bottom line.
most important aspect of parenting, you'd say, right?
Yes.
Very.
Yeah.
Yep.
And that reading these signs and being able to pick out whatever it is that may be going wrong and addressing it and how you address it is also an important point,
Very
because this
important.
how
Yes.
you address it can either
Yeah.
then bring
Can
in
be
a
rebellion,
breach
yeah.
or again
Yeah.
help you get back together.
Yes.
Talk to us about that.
Yeah, and as I said earlier on, it's about relationship. And my experience growing up, bringing up my children, is that from the word go, 2-3 years, you start engaging them, you start taking them out. My daughter, for instance, we used to go and play Ligindogo together just to
Yes.
get to touching each other. Now, like my son is about going out with him and looking at his interest. He's playing football, he likes vehicles, and that's what we work around. It's also about giving them responsibilities and making them understand that as you grow, their responsibilities, but they are consequences to some of the decisions you make. But I think for me, the critical thing is at the end of the day, you also need to make them aware that even if they fail or something happens that was not in the plan, they can still come back to you and have a
Yes.
discussion around it, because we all make mistakes. And although in my father's generation, they were all number one, and the reality,
Mimi siku nilikuwa
Yeah, and
shule.
they were good in maths.
they're all good
Number one. Kwanza maths.
Good in maths.
Yeah. For me, the reality is then, and I think this is where we lose it as parents. We push for grades, we push for academics
Yes.
at the expense of the other things.
Right.
Values.
And for me, the critical thing is: do you have a value system?
Values.
Does the child understand this is how we, the Yamos, behave?
Yeah.
And this is how we are supposed to handle ourselves. So that is very important. And then also just allowing the child to start exploring. And giving them that space to explore. Of course,
Yeah.
the older they become, as Roslyn said, now, for instance, I do not need to manage my teenage 16-year-old boy. He goes to school by himself. He takes a bus back home. During the holidays, I do not have to rush across town to pick him.
Right.
And sometimes I'm amazed when I see in a school neighboring where I stay, parents lining up and causing a major jam, picking boys,
Picking boys who
who
can-
are in high school.
Yeah.
When I went to Form 1, my father said, this is it. Take a bus to school, come back home, and manage yourself. I remember part of growing up, my dad was a bit liberal, so he allowed me to make mistakes, but he would always sit down and tell me, this is where you need to walk.
Yeah.
And the 8 of us, we've turned out relatively well, but it was that discussion
Okay.
and the
Yeah.
relationship created.
I just love the way Dr. has said the dad allow him to make mistakes.
Yes.
And it's important. It's very important to allow mistakes. Let your child make mistake when they're still in your house. Then now you take it as an opportunity to correct and teach. Mistakes, by the way, I always tell parents mistakes are good, because if they don't make a mistake and if you're training them to be mechanical, straight, everything is right.
Perfect. Yeah.
Everything, a perfect child, they're suppressing something. The day they'll go out, tomorrow campus,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
they'll
It's like,
explode.
let's party.
They'll explode. Let them do all those things when they're under your roof. Let them do all those things that we were teenagers also, we know. Let them do all those things when they are under your roof. And then teach them windows of opportunity. Teach them, you know what? Alcohol, you've drunk alcohol, this is what happens, this is what, let them do that. Okay, fine, you have a boyfriend, you have a girlfriend, how far can you go? How far can you go?
Yeah.
You're dressing. How far can you go and how far can you go? Mistakes, I always tell parents, are very good.
Yeah, because
And-
some will beat
Yeah.
them almost to death as they're saying, I
yes.
never want to see.
Yeah. Why? Take them, sit down with them, and if you cannot talk to your child, they're friends. That's why I always say, create a village around your child. Create parents who have the same values with you around your child. I don't mind if I had a son, I would tell them to go to Daktari and I'll be asleep that night, because I know he has values that I admire, that I want him to instill on
Correct, yeah.
mentor my child.
Not the mother who's gonna serve them shots of tequila.
Yeah.
Like kids, mkuja kwa auntie ule smart.
Yeah, and they like that auntie, but
Yeah.
it's not the kind of values that we want them. But let me say, mistakes are good
Yeah.
because they make you now. In fact, it's a topic now to talk to your child.
All right, we
Yeah.
must have you back again sometime. Thank you both
Ye-
for joining us.
yes.
Welcome.
I think good that we've had this discussion this morning, because then for many parents, then you start thinking about it. By the way, what am I doing with my kids this holidays? So yeah, exciting times, and enjoy your holidays with your kids. Say hello to them. Are they watching?
Yeah, mine are watching.
Say hello. All right, Dr. Dr. Vita Yamo and Rosalind Keegan with us this morning, talking about intentional parenting. And that's where we wrap up the show this morning. We thank you for watching. Always a pleasure to be part of your morning. Just a quick update on some of the stories we'll be covering for you today, and you can catch the details in our subsequent bulletins. The funeral service of the late Homa Bay Senator Otino Kajwang is currently ongoing, and later on in the day there will be the viewing of the body at Uhuru Park. So a great leader, of course, a huge loss for his family, for his friends, for the country as a whole, for the ODM party as well. So if you want to have that opportunity to pay your last respects in that way, you can then make your way to Uhuru Park. That's where the viewing of the body will be happening. I'm Sophia Wanuna on behalf of the great team that made the show possible. Thank you so much for watching. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a lovely day.